podcast number 43, where we're going to be discussing games like Yakuza, Like a Dragon, and Captain Tsubasa, Something About Champions, and that's it. Just those two. We're also going to have a fireside chat where we're going to talk about other games, but not in the depth that we talked about those first two that I mentioned. I'm Andy, a.k.a. Solid Talker, hosting here with...
Brent, a.k.a. Arcadia. I like that about you, Andy. You're a straight shooter. Tell it like it is.
I just want to set people's expectations clear from the beginning. We got two games we're talking in detail. I'm not promising that we're going to talk about more, but there may be others. Yeah. But I'm not going to guarantee it.
At least game-adjacent discussions.
Sure. As far as game-adjacent discussion goes, before we really jump into the meat of things, it is now 2021. How's this new year going for you? How's it been? It's been a while. How have you been?
It's snowing in Texas, so it's basically the end of the world. Otherwise, it's been objectively better than 2020, man. I mean, there's a lot of good games to look forward to this year. That's it. That's what I'm looking forward to.
That's it. We got a couple of games to look forward to. End of list.
What's on the horizon for you in the year of our Lord 2021?
Oh, man. If I could think of a single game coming out this year, I could tell you that I was super excited about, but I've gone completely blank.
There you go. That new Conan hack and slash game's coming out. That's the big one.
Everyone loves every Conan game that's come out has been great. So that's a license that has not been poorly managed or misused at all.
Yeah, that's
so getting super psyched for that. You know what? I think there's a bunch of extremely twee farming simulator games like Ooblets and another one about Paleo Pines, I think might be coming out this year, which is like Animal Crossing but with dinosaurs.
Oh, that sounds kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, it's super adorable. Like, if you could imagine dinosaurs being drawn by some kind of high school girl with an extremely high-pitched, cutesy voice, and as she's drawing them, describing them, it just kind of gets into dog whistle territory of high-pitched, because they're so cute.
Oh.
Yeah, it looks good. Paleo Pines looks great.
There's now you sent me a video of this game coming out called Craftopia. Is there crafting in that? I didn't fully understand what I was watching.
Craftopia, and I would recommend anyone listening check out the trailer for this because it's possibly the greatest game ever made.
There you go.
If it delivers on what it's promising, I'm pretty sure it's the greatest game ever created. Because it seems like it's Harvest Moon Factorio Breath of the Wild at Monster Hunter.
What? Okay.
Right? Like, am I getting that?
That's what I got from the trailer, but I was like, nah, no way.
It's the kind of thing that like you and your friends would be sitting around talking about a game just like just Breath of the Wild, and wouldn't it be awesome if you added this? And what if you could like automate a little bit of it? And then an hour later, you're pretty sure you've designed the greatest game in the world with no concept of how big the scope of what you've described is.
And this game will come out in the year 2035.
It had people fighting skeletons that were twice their height, which for some reason was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Giraffes that were being hunted with Pokeball type material, a bunch of small creatures running on treadmills to power factories, simple farming, a conveyor belt dumping cows into a gigantic cauldron.
Yeah,
it looks amazing.
It really does. I remember I was watching it for a while, and then I looked away to like check my phone or something. I looked back up. It was just like, it looked sort of like a knockoff Breath of the Wild at first, and then I look away and I look back, and there's just like a car like flying through the sky, and I was like, "What is happening?"
It feels a lot like one of those videos you'd see that like Donkey would do, where he's installed too many Skyrim mods.
Yeah.
And nothing makes sense anymore, and there's absolutely no like artistic cohesion to anything.
Yeah, there's just like a dragon corpse in the middle of nowhere, and that's actually like the vendor from one of the capital cities.
It's incredible. I can't wait for it. I don't know if it's coming out this year, but I will be pre-ordering it. I will kickstart whatever these people want. I will buy whatever Steelbook edition it has. it's infiltrated my dreams.
Oh god. Speaking of that, and shilling out for other games, how excited are you for the Slay the Spire board game?
Oh my god. I've seen a picture of the box that they've prototyped, and I'm already ready to throw money at it.
That's all there is. It's like coming 2021. I was like, all right, I'm putting $500 aside for this. Whatever it is. The power of Slay the Spire.
And it's it's going to be something like that. It'll be some ridiculous amount of money, but I don't care. Like it's Slay the Spire. It's a great card game. It's a great game.
Yeah.
Especially if they can somehow make it multiplayer and not like a solo experience.
That's the thing. I can definitely see it as a solo experience, but I mean that's not a very fun game. Like, there's a reason we've grown past solitaire.
Well, some of us have. I think that if you've ever played one of those like deck building, like I'm trying to think of the one that I played. It's something to do with superheroes, where everyone was a different superhero, and they each had their own deck and cards they were playing with to kind of everyone fighting one villain. I'm sure that what I've just described is like me describing. Oh, it was like that game where you walk around in a corridor and shoot people, like in a first-person view. Like I've just described something incredibly generic.
007 Nightfire. Yep, I know though.
Nailed it, 100%. The game I'm always thinking about when I talk about FPSs.
Figured it out. Yeah, no, I don't know what you're talking about with this superhero game.
But I'm sure that I feel like it could be done well with almost like a campaign style, each person working towards a narrative objective rather than like a more Netrunner me versus you with our decks.
Yeah, with just different classes of decks.
Yeah, so I don't know. That'll be really cool. I'm excited for that, and when that comes out, I'm sure we'll discuss it at great lengths. Oh God, I can't speak. Great lengths on our board game podcast.
Absolutely, board off, which sounds like a survival horror game.
I feel like if you call something board off, you are handing people the keys to the laziest negative reviews.
Should have called it wood off. Blah, blah. No, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So, with that, we're gonna go into kind of like a newsy fireside chatty thing, right?
Yeah. So there was a little bit of news today. Well, there's been a lot of news today. It's been an interesting week in America. But today,
yeah, I had heard that.
rumors. Yeah. So LucasArts has been around since the mid 80s. I had the year up here if you want to let me fact check my damn self. Yeah, since 1982, and it's been handling prior to the Disney acquisition, it was handling almost all the development of all the Star Wars games, or if it was handling the licensing for all the Star Wars games. Since the Disney acquisition, they've just been handling the licensing as a very small team, and today Disney sort of announced that they're renaming LucasArts to Lucasfilms Games, which, in their defense, was the original name of the studio until they realized that it was a stupid fucking name and renamed it LucasArts in 1990. Since then being today, they've decided to go back to that truly, truly terrible name. I sort of thought this was interesting because I had like a really visceral reaction to it when I read it this morning, and like it was just like, what a stupid fucking name! How fucking dare they? And maybe it's just because like I just start foaming at the mouth for anything Disney does these days, because they're just on a weird trajectory with a lot of these properties, and it seems like they're oversaturating the Star Wars franchise. But neither here nor there.
I don't know how you could possibly be coming to that conclusion.
Neither.
That is preposterous.
Yeah, that's a discussion for movie and TV off, I guess. But yeah, we see this from time to time with studios like THQ, like the new THQ Nordic's not really the same THQ of yesteryear. Like the current Atari wasn't the same company as the old Atari. I guess I want to pose the question of like why do we keep reanimating the corpses of like these old studios? It's like it's not even clear like what the new version of Lucasfilm Games is going to be doing, but they seem adamant to be bringing everything in house at Disney. They obviously did it with Marvel and all the Marvel TV shows. They like straight up were just like, no, like our Netflix deal's canceled. You can go fuck yourself. All these TV shows that were doing really well, we don't care because we want to make sure it's monopolized internally. So
yeah, they want that money.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's how business works. I understand. Like
sure,
maybe they're gross about it, but that's a discussion for another time. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on all of this?
You know, it's weird. Because I've seen it happen with a couple of companies from my childhood. It happened with Sierra maybe 4 or 5 years ago. They came back and redid King's Quest and brought that back. There was 3D Realms came back a couple of years ago, and Apogee both came back and did like Rise of the Triad as a remake and a re-release. They just recently resurrected the Crystal Caves franchise, or the Crystal Caves license, and just kind of did a reskin of that, which I really enjoyed. But it's very weird seeing these kind of things come back, and you know that they don't really have any connection to the original thing in any practical means.
Yeah.
It's not like you're getting the original BioShock team back together or the original System Shock team back together to make another System Shock under its original, branding and everything like that. It's just a title. It's just a new billboard you're putting up. So it feels extremely cynical. It feels like just a way to trade on goodwill in a way that's almost worse than, the way that we remake a lot of movies and reboot a lot of movies. Because at least then... Because there's no guarantee that Lucasfilm Games will do anything related to the original Lucasfilm Games. At least with like a new Charlie's Angels, there was 3 women and they were spies, or I guess whatever they were 3 women and they fought people.
And they listened to what Charlie requested of them. That's it.
Yeah, so at least I get that. That's at least I can draw a line between the two. But Lucasfilm Games being back, like, who cares? What does it mean? What are you going to make another Loom? Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, I don't even think this division even like needs to exist on its own, especially if it's just handling the licensing. like just throw them in the PR department somewhere at Disney and like call them the Star Wars licensing team and forget about them. It
feels so corporate and planned and calculated.
Yeah. Exactly, because like this is all coming across as baity, right? Like Wikipedia, which obviously I didn't fact check this yet, but Wikipedia's last count of the number of employees at LucasArts was 10. Like, there's 10 people aren't developing a new game. Like they're pretty much just like discussing the licensing with EA, who owns all of like the game dev rights through the next 2 or 3 years for the Star Wars franchise.
And they just done that with EA, right? That was basically they just gave it to EA and said make games.
Make games.
And EA squandered the shit out of that license.
Yes. Yeah.
What do they make, like 4 games over the course of 10 years?
Battlefront 2, and then Jedi Fallen Order and Star Wars Squadrons. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it, because I think there was like 3 or 4 titles that got canceled also in the mix there. And
well, I mean, with a license like Star Wars, what do you do with it?
What do you do?
There's not a lot to mine from there.
A literal entire galaxy of possibilities with nothing but a common theme binding. Like, what could you possibly do?
Hundreds of thousands of pages of written lore.
Literally. Characters that are, like, you could pull out of the archives. Like, fuck?
And dozens upon dozens of already existing game ideas that you could just like, all right, we're making, I don't know, Rogue Squadron again. We're just making another one.
Yeah, that's another good example. Like, they announced, I think, a movie called Rogue Squadron, and they're like, oh, no, it doesn't have anything to do with the game. It's like, why are you calling it Rogue Squadron, then? It's like, well, some people will probably like that name for one reason or another. It's like, you know why people like that name, you son of a bitch. Like,
This is what the CW does. Disney is basically, let's make a Nancy Drew show, but it's spooky and it's modern times and it's sexy. Like, oh, all those things that I associate with Nancy Drew.
Yeah, exactly.
All of those things I associate with Archie comics, like murder and serial killers and cults. That's what I associate with Archie comics, and not trying to go on 2 dates in the same day and eating a lot of cheeseburgers.
Yeah, well, they're clearly learning something from CW.
It's really frustrating. What I would love to see any of these companies do, and I think I've posed this idea before, so I apologize for wasting the next 2 minutes of everyone's time. I would like to see LucasArts or Lucasfilm Games or whatever just say, hey, we're going to give these licenses and these ideas exclusively to smaller teams. We're gonna give the whole Rogue Squadron thing to a much small, like a 10-person indie team. Do what you want with it. Here, you want to make a game about droids. Here you go. Call us up, like Stephen King does with his dollar, where the small, like, college kids can buy licensing rights from him or an IP rights from him to make a student film for $1.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want to see from Lucasfilms. Like, you've got all of these IPs underneath you. Have smaller teams come together and make them. And yeah, they're not all going to come together. Some of them might end up like a John Wick Hex, which kind of got middling reviews. Yeah. But occasionally you'll end up with something that's really interesting.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're still, like, building out this universe in all these different ways and reaching people that you wouldn't necessarily have originally reached. Like, if they made a Star Wars tactics game, like, that'd be the one I played. I don't care about these shooters.
I would love to see that. I'd love to see whatever happens in a situation where Devolver publishes a Star Wars game. I can't even imagine what that game is. But, like, I don't know, some sort of hut tycoon game.
That'd be amazing. Oh my god. Yeah, maybe.
But they're gonna waste all of these licenses on flying games, FPSs, third-person Dark Souls RPGs. Yeah. Like, it's going to be all the same things that everyone else is going to make. Mm-hmm. Nothing interesting is going to happen with them.
Yeah, and, like, that's essentially what they've been doing for, like, the last 8 years or so with EA. It's like you've been reaching the same fucking audience over and over again for every 3 years. Like, just get it out there. Like, it doesn't have to have lore implications. Just let people make stupid fucking Stormtrooper games where they're like planting in the corpses of, all the deceased people. Like, I don't know.
That's what
get out of the box.
Like, I want Star Wars Harvest Moon where I'm moisture farming.
Exactly. Yes.
Where is that? I want that game. I want, like, some kind of, Diner Dash, but I'm running a Mos Eisley Cantina.
Like a survival game where every once in a while I have to cut open a fucking tauntaun and climb inside. Like, play a survival game in a
All of these ideas, I'm guessing, are better than whatever they're going to come up with. I'm stating that now equivocally.
Battlefront 3? Squadrons 2?
Jedi Knight Reborn?
That's what people really liked about Star Wars, was the aerial combat. And the pod racing. God, if they make another pod racing game.
I forgot about them re-releasing Pod Racer.
Oh my god, yeah. I did play Racer Revenge recently on the PS4.
Oh, how'd you like that?
Oh, that's dog shit. I don't remember how I played those games so much as a kid.
I got the one for Switch. I was like, oh, this is going to be so much fun. It was like 2 races. No, I'm out.
Fuck this.
Went back to playing Nicktoons Kart Racing 2.
The refined racer. God.
All right, you want to tell us about Yakuza Dragonforce?
Oh yeah, sure. Fucking, it's that time, I guess. Let's.
Yeah, why not?
All right, so I'm gonna preface all of this by saying that I am probably a bit of a Yakuza shill or simp or whatever the kids stan whatever the kids are calling them, me these days.
I'm pretty sure that those all mean exactly the same thing, and there's no subtle distinction between being a shill, a simp, and a stan.
Yeah, there you go. Yakuza Lad, also known as Yakuza 7 in Japan, which implies that it's the 7th game in his franchise that I've loved for fucking ever. And by forever, I mean, I have a quick aside. The first time I ever played a Yakuza game was actually in preparation for our first few episodes of this podcast.
That was the first one you'd played?
Yakuza 6, yeah.
Wow.
We had originally decided to do the first few episodes as a recap of the previous year. I think that was like 2017 recap or something.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, one of the games I played was Yakuza 6. And, oh, man, I fell hard in love with that game. And I was sad I never got to talk about it on this podcast. So I've been holding in a lot of positive energy for the Yakuza franchise. And it's going to probably overflow a little bit because I think the last 3 or 4 games I've played have been a bit dog shit. So forgive me. Anyway, Yakuza is typically a brawler, almost in the vein of like Batman Arkham Asylum, if you've played those games. Takes place in Japan, as the name Yakuza suggests. Primarily, one of the more interesting things the franchise does, though, is it takes place in the same location in the same city, Kamurocho, which is supposed to be a replication of Shinjuku in Tokyo. So
not a real place.
Yeah, not a real place, but it's got like heavy similarities to Shinjuku. And they'll add new places. This new game actually takes place primarily in Yokohama, but you can go back to the Kamurocho area, as well as the Sotenbori area, which is in Osaka from previous games. So what they do is build on the franchise slowly over time. One of the funnier things that I like about the game is you can still, like, if you find really weird alleys in the game, you can sort of see like really old PS2 textures. Just because they haven't gotten around to updating that part of the city yet, but they're still using like this one weird alley that they're not using, because the maps are pretty fucking big, so the shit takes time. Anyway, games have since evolved. Not games. This is the first game that's evolved past the brawler gameplay style. The games have always had sort of small RPG elements where you'd sort of just get plus attack power, etc., but you'd still be mashing X or Y to beat the shit out of a bunch of goons. This is a proper RPG. There's no way around it. You've got dozens of classes to play with. You can level up all your guys to 99, get all those stat bonuses, get the best weapons in the game, the EXs. It's very, very satisfying. As a JRPG, it has a lot of really nice homages to classic JRPGs. One of my favorite things is like it sort of reminds me a lot of these like PS1, PS2 era Final Fantasies. You have a lot of, actually probably more the PS1 era. There's like secret characters. There's really hard to grind rewards, like getting the final weapons in the game. They take time, and you get them different ways. You can get them by grinding money. You can get them by playing mini games in batting cages. You can get them from like the golf mini game or gambling. Like, there's a lot. You could play the game however you want and end up at the same place, but it still is hard work. The story is standard fare for any Yakuza game. If you guys have ever played one, it's essentially you're not actually a Yakuza. Like, you're not a gangster while the game's taking place, but you always seem to be cleaning up after Yakuza or chasing after Yakuza or doing something centrally focused on Yakuza, but you're not strictly a Yakuza because you're not ever a bad guy, quote unquote. So one of the best parts about this game is actually the battle system. It's very simple, but also really well done in that same theme of building off of what they've already built. They had done a really good job in previous games of sort of making the combat really fluid with the environment. Like, in older games, you would have this beast style, which would allow you while attacking to just pick up random objects mid-combo and just start beating the shit out of people with them. In this game, that happens like organically. Like, you don't have styles, obviously, because it's not a brawler. You just, if you're running at someone to attack them and there's like an item on the ground, like they use that exact same functionality to just pick up an item and like beat the shit out of them with like this neon sign in the middle of the road or like a bicycle or something. So it feels, in a lot of ways, it feels like a really, really smart evolution of what they have already built. When they first announced it, since I really like traditional turn-based RPGs and stuff like that, I was still excited for it, but I could see why people were disappointed, because there's really nothing wrong with the old battle system, but it was still really, it's exciting for me to see it go in a new direction, see them try new things, but it still like seemed very different from what it used to be, but in reality, it's really not. Obviously, there wasn't like, special abilities that you would use in the middle of combat and stuff. Like you'd have prompts that would sort of go into mini cutscenes before, but now you'll have like abilities that have completely separate animations and cutscenes and stuff like that. But it's still very much in that vibe of, I guess, over the top combat. I won't continue hard segueing here. I'll let you, if you have any questions, I'll take a breather.
You've actually been hitting them as they've been coming up. How is, because a lot of the stuff I've heard about the Yakuza series in the past has been about the storytelling, about the way that the character development goes and the characters that they write. Is that followed through in Like a Dragon?
I would say they may have created the best set of characters in the entire franchise with this game. In comparing it a little bit to Persona, one of the things that Persona does really well is you spend time with the characters and you grow with them, you grow personality traits on top of like all the obvious combat ones. In this game, it does that same thing to a lesser extent. You have personality traits, but also you have relationships with people that are partially dictated by your personality traits and stuff. So you get a lot of time learning about all these characters, learning about their backstories, realizing that like no one's obviously what they seem at face value, and you go and you sort of do a quest for each person and get to know them. I would say your entire party is done very well. Some obviously more than others, but one of the more endearing aspects of the game is definitely the characterization of your immediate party, and especially later on with some of the non-party members.
How's the localization?
The writing is always really impressive for it. I still leave it on Japanese audio, but the translation for the subtitles is always very good. Like, it always feels like someone who has a really good grasp of both languages translated it, and so things that may not be funny in English, but they're funny, or puns, because the Japanese, like, they have a lot of puns that are based on like the language, obviously. So that's impossible to translate, but I've always found that they did a really good job in the franchise of like finding a way to make jokes funny, because it's a very, very humorous, tongue-in-cheek sort of game. But yeah, other than the humor, the writing is very good.
I don't know what the right term for this is, but I know like with RPGs, there's always that balance of how much of it is story role-playing and how much of it is combat.
Mm-hmm.
How is the balance in this compared, I guess, in general, and also compared to other Yakuza games? Because I know that these are very story-heavy games, so I'm thinking of a game like Shenmue, where it's a lot of story, and you can have really long stretches between combat encounters.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's definitely very story heavy. There's a tremendous amount of cutscenes in the game, and then they have like 3 tiers of how they tell the story. It'll just be like text based, like simple animations, and then they'll have like expanded cutscenes that you can still skip through, and then they'll have straight up movies. And there's a lot of them, but there's definitely stretches where like long stretches where it'll just be you'll sort of be locked in. Like it'll be like like cutscene, battle, cutscene, battle, cutscene. I don't remember any times where I put my controller down for like 30 minutes at a time or anything like that, but a 10-minute cutscene is definitely not.
So we're not at like Metal Gear Solid level.
Yeah, exactly. I always think about Xenosaga for some reason when I think about that. When it's like at the very beginning of the game, there's like 3 or 4 45-minute cutscenes, and it's like, what? Am I playing a video game? I'm confused.
It was just an early attempt at something like Quantum Break.
Yes, yeah. The straight up episodes of TV and that. Yeah, I'd say that's one of the things that doesn't always land with me. In the cutscenes that you can sort of quickly skip through. There's a good like skipping system in the game, even if it's like heavily animated, like those in between sort of cutscenes, you can skip through a lot of stuff pretty quickly. So if you do get sort of annoyed by how much they're talking, you can skip through it pretty quick, read it, go. There's not too many of those traditional cutscenes where you're just like locked into a movie. So if you do get sick of the reading, which there's going to be a lot of, especially if you play it with Japanese audio, yeah, you can skip through it pretty quickly, and a lot of it is kind of repetitive. Like you get a lot of gists pretty quickly. A lot of things don't need to be said, but that's sort of typical with a lot of Japanese games.
As someone who has no experience with the Yakuza series, is this something that I could jump into, or is there a lot of prior knowledge that I need to understand what's going on narratively?
I would say it's perfectly fine to jump into. There's a little bit of fan service throughout the game, but otherwise it's sort of meant to be its own jumping off point. That's part of the reason they renamed it to Yakuza Like a Dragon in English and not just left it as Yakuza 7, because it's meant to be a continuation. It is very much a continuation, but like a more dramatic continuation. And I think just the English Sega America thought that this would be a good clean break to try and get new people in. It is good for that, but I would say most of the games are also pretty good at that. There's only a couple. I started playing with Yakuza 6. That game takes time to sort of introduce you to all the characters really quickly, give you summaries of what's going on. And I played through it, and I didn't feel like I missed anything by not playing the early ones, other than a couple of weird, like, hey, you remember me? And it's like, that could have just been a new story in the game, or it could have actually been a reference to an old game that I just don't get. Either way, it didn't really impact the game that much. I think you get a similar sort of experience with this, where there's, like, I recognize some recurring characters, but it's not like, oh, I've been around for all this amount of time, like I was just talking to the buddy from the old games, like there's none of that. It's just like if you recognize that guy, it sort of adds a new dimension to what's going on, but otherwise it doesn't take away from it not knowing.
Okay, so it's not a requirement that you be completely up to date on all Yakuza lore.
Yeah, exactly. And if I was gonna go full stan, I would say, just play the game. Don't worry about all the old games. Like you're gonna fucking enjoy this game. Period. Like there's no barrier for entry, especially not story wise.
How much grinding is there?
It depends on what you want to get done. There's difficulties in the game. You can play it without grinding at all if you play it on easy. I played it on hard.
I know that's not your style.
Yeah, I played it on hard. I to get through the story, I didn't feel like I needed to grind at all.
Okay.
However, I am in the post game. I only have one achievement left, and to get to 100% the game, there's a lot of grinding. But most people aren't going to do that, so I won't even waste another breath on that.
Okay. This sounds like a game that you'd pretty highly recommend.
I love this game. Everything about it worked. Everything that I loved about the franchise was held true in this game. They didn't lose touch with their roots. They, in fact, in a lot of ways, added a lot by having a more three-dimensional main character. The protagonist of the old games, he was sort of designed to be a little bit like gruffer, a little bit flatter. But like there was a lot of charm that came through in a lot of weird ways because he was also like he was sort of like a yes man. So like even though he was a little bit gruff and hard, he would always do anything anyone asked of him, and like he would have something to say about it, like, and was never like mean about it. So he was charming, but he wasn't like a full character in a lot of ways. Yeah, Kasuga is the main character of this game, and he's a fully realized, very, very interesting, cool main character. I think a lot of people can sort of get a lot from this story, even though it's obviously the one thing I will note about the Yakuza franchise is it's like a lot of video game. Like there's a lot of over the top moments in it. A lot of the abilities are complete nonsense. A lot of the things you're going to be doing are crazy. The character designs are really far fetched because a lot of what's taking place is sort of in Kasuga's imagination. So even though you're actually in combat with someone, like he sort of transcribes all these characters wearing like funny clothes and stuff to more closely reflect RPGs of yore, which is like literally what's happening because he's a huge fan of the Dragon Quest games.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's all part of the story. But yeah, it's a lot of game, and it's a lot of fun. Some things won't necessarily gel with Western cultures so much. I think I should probably add that as a caveat. Sort of the same way that like there's some weird topics and like animes and stuff that you might see that you're like, I don't like what's happening here. You may get some of that in this game. Probably less now than the older games. As we move forward into the future, because these games have existed since the early 2000s. So there's still some growing up that can certainly happen. But yeah.
It's the way you're describing it is very like you're talking about like the work of a small child.
No, not like that. I think so. I've seen a couple of Kotaku articles that are sort of essentially like Yakuza needs to grow up faster, and it's more about how females are represented in the game a lot of times.
Oh, okay.
So
gotcha.
I don't want to talk about it too much, but I think that there's something to be said there. If you're curious about it, maybe read a more articulate article written by a professional writer, Kotaku or something. But yeah, some of the female characters are probably the less developed of the characters in the game, and some of the relationships are, they're a little bit funny. They're more for humor than they are for realistic intent, and
gotcha.
it may come across as a little gross.
May not sit well with the less tolerant, or less tolerance. The wrong word.
Yeah,
you need a strong stomach.
Not necessarily that. It's just that it's a different culture, so it's developed in a different culture, like it literally takes place in a different culture, so there's some pills you might have to swallow. I think that's the only way
Gotcha.
I could really put it.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that kind of sorts my questions.
Yeah, let me make sure there's nothing else I want to note really. I will say I didn't really talk too much about the combat. I thought that, I talked about how organic it evolved from the old games, but it was really interesting how a lot of it played out. Since it was turn-based, even though it's sort of, I don't know how you describe it. It's sort of like does the tactics thing where it'll just cordon off a certain area and you'll be stuck in that area fighting people, but it's not like you're just standing still waiting for somebody to make a move. Everybody's still like moving around, idling, walking around and stuff, but they are waiting for you to make a move by just not attacking, but they're still moving around. So it introduces some interesting problems with like the combat. A lot of the AoE, the area of effect abilities, they need to be sort of targeted, like conal and stuff, so people can walk out of them. The guy you're targeting could sway all the way to the left and you miss everyone. So there's some interesting problem solvings with that. You can also with like how you could get interrupted if you were running to attack someone and you ran past another enemy. They'll just straight up kick you to the ground. Like, no, you're not going to attack my homie. Like, get out of here. I really liked that, how that played out. It again just added to how organic the combat really felt. And God, the abilities are so fun. There's one ability where you like literally charge at a guy with a katana, like spear him through the gut and just stick him up in the air, and then lightning strikes you and him, and it's just like the end of the animation is just both you and him like blacked out. So the game is just fun. It's just a lot of fun. It's gonna put a smile on your face from so many times.
Well, this may be one that I actually have to check out.
Yeah, and yeah, I would say you would enjoy it a lot for sure. A lot of the things that I really liked about like Sleeping Dogs like come through in this. Like Sleeping Dogs is a very serious game, but then there's like these over the top like brutal moments. Yakuza does that sort of thing, but more fun, less bloody. Like Sleeping Dogs, one of my favorite things was you could like take somebody by the back of the head and just put their face into a fucking table saw, and it's like, that's fucking brutal. It's similar sort of joy you get, but less gory. and as
well, I guess if it's less gory, I could maybe get into it.
I know you're a bit of a glutton for blood.
Oh yeah, that's what they always say about me.
Andy the blood drinker. Yeah. I will say I should definitely note something that I didn't like about the game, and it's a lot of the mini games are kind of boring. If you like, some of the ways that you sort of have to get end game items are like playing shogi or doing like weird other mini games like traditional mahjong and stuff like that. And God, like I don't want to do any of that. So you'd have to like farm out money instead, which like you could always bypass all this stuff with money, but it was a tremendous amount of money. So it was a bit of a dick move sometimes.
Yeah, that's a bit of a downer.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all I had left. Shall we talk about Captain Tsubasa and the champions of something or other?
Oh, do I have to?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Contract, bro.
Man. I find myself in a lot of positions where I get excited for things that I didn't really understand. And I make up things in my mind about what something's going to be. And then you watch it and you're like a movie where you kind of like, you haven't seen the trailer. You just kind of know the general premise and a couple of the actors. You're like, oh, this is going to be fun. I'm going to really enjoy this movie, and it's going to be really cool, and it's going to be exciting and interesting. And it's none of those things. This is kind of like that, where I was trying to remember the name of a movie to reference there, but I couldn't think of it. I think it's a Ewan McGregor film called Stay. Do you remember that one?
Stay. No.
Yeah, it was bad. I took a date there while I was in Boston. I lived in Boston. I took a date there and I fell asleep during the movie, which wasn't a great sign for the movie or the date. I don't know why I'm referencing that. I just desperately don't want to talk about Captain Tsubasa. That's basically it, so I'll just talk about forgotten Ewan McGregor films instead.
Okay.
But that was a movie that I had based, general knowledge of the plot and the characters, and I had a very heightened idea of what this movie was going to be, and then I watched it and I was like, oh, this is kind of pants. So, Captain Tsubasa, Rise of a Champion, the Champion, those champions, something about champions, is a soccer game based apparently on an anime about a soccer player named Tsubasa.
Uh-huh.
Which I guess is well regarded. I had never heard of it before this game. I knew nothing about it. I had seen people with memes about sports animes and how they can get you really invested in a sport that you had no interest in previously, because that format of storytelling, it provides for a lot of drama and investment.
Yes. 100%.
I can tell you that being in green to Captain Tsubasa and going into story mode, it did not translate to me. And I did not become invested in this less than 10 match long story mode.
Oh.
That about these characters that I did not care about. And did not understand their relationships or what the stakes were for any of this. Like, it was just very and the story sections are so long, and it's just kind of like because it's not animated, it reminds me a lot of the story sections in like those did you ever play 999 on the DS?
No.
Okay, it reminded me of story sections in like a visual novel or dating sim.
Yeah, like the old Fire Emblems always used to do that. It was just like what do they call it? Just like talking heads.
Yes, thank you. It was just like the talking heads. And there's a lot of that, not much movement or anything happening, and a lot of people talking about stuff that I'm sure is very important to someone, but not knowing the story, it just wasn't there for me. Which is, not an issue I had like playing some of the Naruto games that they've made, where like I have no idea what's going on in any of that, but I still had fun with the game. This unfortunately was not fun. I had in my mind, and this is where I made the mistake of making up a game in my mind that this wasn't. I had in my mind that this is going to be really crazy soccer, like an arcadey, but like super, like almost like Super Mario Strikers. If you remember that game.
Yeah. Or
that's what I thought I was getting myself
FIFA
into.
Street.
Oh yeah, or even a FIFA Street, which wasn't as crazy as Mario Strikers, because Mario Strikers had like fireballs and crazy team maneuvers and explosions.
Whoa, that's too crazy.
Yeah, FIFA Street was still good. I liked FIFA Street a lot. I played the one on the DS like crazy, and handheld soccer games are usually garbage.
Yes.
So I played a lot of that. Just to make clear, I am not a novice to soccer games or to arcade soccer games. I've played a lot of them, and I've enjoyed a lot of them.
Yeah, you're a competitive FIFA streamer, aren't you?
Yeah, I am all the time. You can check me out at
Footboy1.
Footboy1. Please, editor, edit in a better joke in there somewhere.
Cannot be sorry.
You can even say it. Just we'll brainstorm something funny and then we'll put it in there afterwards.
Oh my god, how funny would that be? Just like a woman's voice chimed in, just like stiltedly reads off a joke.
But so I am familiar with soccer games. I'm familiar both. I've played FIFA, and I played a lot of FIFA in the 2000s on PlayStation and Dreamcast, not Dreamcast, because they had the 2K Sports. I don't know why I don't want to talk about Captain Tsubasa. I so desperately don't want to talk about this game.
All right,
I'm not a soccer novice. This game, its soccer plays out like slightly crazy soccer. Like, the animations are crazy. You can kind of like barrel through people, but it's not the fast-paced, quick maneuver of like a FIFA Street or NFL Blitz type gameplay of super arcadey sport distilled down to its broad strokes. It's kind of like regular FIFA if you just kind of tweaked some of the settings a little bit. Like, there's moves you can do, but you don't feel like some crazy souped up powerful guy doing crazy anime soccer. They have animations that when you do a crazy kick, like this falcon flies in from behind you, but it's in this very canned close-up of you that almost feels like a mini cinematic. In the same way that like it's almost like a battle in Advance Wars. Like, the battles in Advance Wars are made to kind of look exciting, but that you're not excitedly killing people. It's all about that kind of more meta tactic stuff, and that this feels like that. Like, they tried to make these moments exciting like they are in the anime by having these elementals of various animals representing what's going on behind you, and the ball getting kicked surrounded by purple flames, and the goalie blocks it and he's got it in his hands and it's spinning, and is he going to hold on to it? But all of that's happening in canned cinematics and stuff on screen. None of it's happening to the player. If that makes sense.
Yes. Sort of.
So, like, when I think to a game like a FIFA Street, all the cool stuff that you're doing is that that juking and footwork is all because of very well-timed things that you're doing. And it looks cool on screen, but it's also very much you did that. You can watch that replay and
okay.
and there I went around there and I did that. That was really cool. In this, you charge up a shot and it looks really cool on screen, but you just held Y and then you let go of Y.
Yeah.
And then this big explosion happens on screen, but you didn't do any of it. It kind of feels a little bit like games that have tried to do the Arkham-style combat and have done it poorly.
Yeah.
Where it boils down to just counter and attack.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of fireworks on screen. Yes, Mad Max is a great example of that. A lot of fireworks on screen, and you're just alternating between two buttons on the controller. So that was kind of the disappointment for me in how it didn't live up to that expectation I had created for it in my mind of it being this new arcade soccer game. I was expecting somewhere between Mario Strikers and Shaolin Soccer.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Because, yeah, I don't know about you. Do you ever enjoy these sort of like in between games? Like, I just want something but dieter. Or is it always do you always just really go for these arcadey games?
I mean, I really like the arcadey stuff because I find it's more quick paced and it's more in keeping with like the amount of patience I have for sports games these days. I don't have the patience to do full seasons of FIFA or Madden or any of the 2K sports stuff like I did 10, 15 years ago. I want to sit down and play an entire game of football in about 8 minutes.
Exactly.
Can you think of any examples that are in that middle ground other than this here?
Yeah, as soon as you started talking about this, I was reminded of Rbi Baseball, which...
Oh my god, Rbi Baseball!
I picked up once because I was like, I don't want to play like MLB The Show. Like, that's too much game. Like, I just want to hit a thwack ball, go vroo, and then that's it. And Rbi Baseball was like this is like a sim, but shittier. I was like, what the fuck is this? And to be fair, that product game is definitely not for me, so I don't need to talk shit about it. But like, that was not the game I fucking wanted to play. So yeah, this sounds like another example of that.
You want something more like MLB Slugfest.
Exactly. Like, I just want a home run derby or something, but easy.
No, what you want is backyard baseball.
Yes, kind of.
That's it.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But good.
Yeah, that middle ground is really hard to find, and I get, because you don't want to spend time managing and building out a team and setting up positions and setting up formations for Super Mario Strikers.
Yeah.
That would feel silly and ridiculous.
Yeah.
In the same way that like doing any kind of tuning on your car and cruising Exotica would feel ridiculous.
Right. Yeah, I was like, I could set you as a defender, but you're just going to sprint across the field in 1 second anyway. Who cares?
Right. Yeah, the field is the size of a tennis court. There's 6 people on it, and you all have magic feet.
Exactly.
And that's what I was in the mood for with this game, and it just did not deliver that at all.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it has a lot of technical issues that really plague it. If you try to play online, it's just god-awful. The lag is bad. It takes forever to make a match. And from what I can tell, it's not from a lack of players. It's just bad online.
Yeah.
I did not have fun in the maybe 3 online matches I tried to play. I felt like I was playing Counter-Strike on dial-up modem again.
Oh, gross.
Like, just really floaty, slow response, shit flying around that didn't make sense, stuff getting stuck in corners and flying on it. Like, yeah.
So that online will be dead in a month.
On top of that, it does a lot of because it is a modern sports game. So the first thing that happens when you boot it up, and I was playing this on Switch, by the way, and it's not a good Switch port. I would definitely recommend if you felt the need to play this. And if you're a fan of the anime, maybe this is something that you'd really get into, and maybe there's more to be had for it from that. But I'd play this on a better console because it runs slow. When you boot it up, it checks the network, which can take a couple of minutes.
Oh, Jesus.
Of just checking network. And then it goes through like your daily login bonuses, which felt gross.
God.
Like the first time you boot up a game, I feel like I'm playing a mobile game now.
Yeah, were you playing this handheld or console-ified?
I had this in the dock on screen.
Okay.
And so, like, because that was my first thought was, because I had read a couple of things saying that the frame rate drops a little bit. And I thought, okay, well, I'll play it in the dock on screen, on my TV screen to guarantee I get best performance, which wasn't good at all. It was not great performance. The visuals looked fine, but they weren't stunning, and I know the Switch is capable of better.
Yeah. Can reach the peaks of 900p.
There is a currency that you earn in game that you use to buy packs of cards that can help you. Oh, there's also a your hero or new hero mode, which is kind of like the the superstar mode that you have in the Madden games, or the make your own player mode.
Yeah. FIFA has something like that too, so it's definitely not out of the realm of soccer games.
Yeah. No, but this has that as well, and it's fine, I guess. You get packs with you can cards that are be your friends and that affects your stats, and then apparently I started playing after this happened, but apparently all the microtransactions were patched in after the fact.
Oh fuck!
Which is super shitty and gross.
So mad. I hate this game already.
But it does mean that they don't have to put microtransaction warnings on the box art because that already got approved and shipped. So that's super cool.
Oh, what a bunch of cocks.
And their PEGI rating doesn't change because it was all, it got certified and then they had a bunch of fucking assholes. I hate it so much.
So gross.
I wish I had bought this on Steam because I knew within 2 hours that I did not want this game anymore. That I wasn't having fun and I was frustrated with the mechanics and it's bad online. And there's no refund policy for Switch, despite how buggy and gross this game is, so I'm just stuck with it.
Yep. You bought it.
I bought it. I made that mistake. I thought I was going to have fun with a game that looked like fun. That's on me, clearly.
So you need to better interpret what fun is. That's your problem.
Yeah. So that's me. You have any questions about this game?
Yeah, I was laughing when you said the story was only 10 games or so, because my experience with like sports animes is that like an entire season can be one game. So did it feel like it was at all a cohesive story, or was everything lost? Like all of the storytelling completely lost?
It's so much. I read the story beats for leading up to the first match that I actually like sat and read through every single one that happened.
Yeah.
And it's just so long. It was so much story. It was easily 10 minutes of me reading story before and this is soccer. I'm playing a soccer game. I want to play soccer. Just let me play the soccer.
Yeah, it's so weird because a lot of these sports animes are really framed around like interpersonal drama, and I don't know how you drum that up and just have like an antagonist be this faceless person on the other side of the pitch or whatever. It just seems I just don't know how that would play out. Like, why even bother having a story?
I don't know. I just don't know.
Were there any other good modes in the game other than
No, you've got your standard like practice where you can go through some training drills. You've got versus where I'm going to have Japan play against FC Montenegro or whatever fake teams they had. I was trying to pick something that I knew wasn't correct. So, but some kind of fake teams in the world of this anime, or you could create your own custom teams, which I had neither the patience or the inclining to do because it's just I couldn't care at that point.
Yep, that's completely fair.
It made me just want to play any other soccer game. Go break up my DS and re-download. That's not something I do. Repurchase FIFA. What was I? Maybe it was in FIFA 2007, 2008.
I think some of the FIFA games will be on Game Pass eventually. Now that they have the EA Play thing.
Oh, that's gonna be so gross though. I'd like seeing all of those player cards and star cards, because I stopped playing FIFA before all that stuff was added in.
Yeah. I think the last one I played was like 2015, and that's when it was starting to get real gross. But those are
Yeah,
those are fun games. But like soccer as a genre is really fun. Like that's why Rocket League's so popular. It's like I want to hit ball, going goal. Like that's a lot of fun. Like just make it fun and do that with other things other than cars and feet, human feet, slow moving.
There's plenty of people doing it.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people out there making good sports games and good arcade sports games that understand how to distill a sport to its most exciting, effective moments.
Yes. Yeah.
And it wasn't these people.
Yeah. I wish I had more questions, but there doesn't seem like much to go on here.
No, it is not. It's my thoughts in it are very. I mean, I've been talking about it for ages, but it's brief because it's not fun.
Did any of the game at all make you interested in the anime?
Actually, yes. I did become interested in checking out the anime because I've never watched a sports anime. So I was interested in that idea. I think my sister said she watched a hockey one that she got really into.
Yeah, I think I've heard of the hockey one. I really like a volleyball one, for example.
Oh, I've heard about the volleyball one as well. Yep.
That one's really good. But also, like, I think there's only like 4 total matches played through the first 3 seasons, so it's very different.
If it's done right, it can be exciting.
For sure.
That's storytelling.
Yeah.
And I did not get that through this, and I don't know. I'll just hang out here and wait for now that Nintendo owns Next Level for them to make another Super Mario Strikers or NHL Hits Pro.
Yeah, it is kind of a shame that they haven't been pumping out many more of those Mario whatevers. Like,
it blows my mind because Mario Tennis Aces apparently has done very well on the Switch.
Has it?
Yeah, it's gotten a ton of post-release content, and I still see people talking about it and playing it. Like, from what I can tell, it's done very well. I don't know why they've done none of their other sports franchises.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, even like a sort of greatest hits minigames compilation, I think would go a long way. Like, Wii Sports existed for a reason, right? Like, people really like distilled versions of these sports. If you're not going to build out a whole Mario Strikers again, like, I think that another iteration of Wii Sports would be a lot of fun.
They had a Next Level was working on Super Mario Spikers.
Oh,
which was going to be a Mario volleyball game for the Wii.
Dude,
but it got canceled.
See, that could be a lot of fun if done really well.
Yep.
I can definitely see that. Oh, that's a shame. Oh,
it really is.
Heartbreak.
It really is. Nintendo has a lot of great properties that they squander because they're not one of the 4 properties they actually want to put effort into.
What's happening with Donkey Kong these days?
Oh my god. Do you know how much money I'd pay to play Donkey Konga again?
Well, you could pay the entry fee of finding the Kongas and an N64.
Okay, yeah, as I said that, and as you pointed out, like, there is an amount of money that you can pay. You can just go buy it. You can buy a GameCube and the Kongas.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing that I don't actually want to pay. It's not much. I'd pay like $20.
I know, I feel like I
Konga
see like
again.
a set of those Kongas like every other day.
Yeah, I could easily just walk into any Funko land and pick one up.
Exactly. Any closing thoughts on Captain Tsubasa?
Don't buy it at $60. If you're into Captain Tsubasa as an anime, wait until it goes down to... Well, actually, these Tecmo games never go down. Yeah, I paid $60 for this.
What the fuck? Okay. No, that changes things. What the fuck?
Yeah, this is a full-priced fucking Bandai game.
Jesus Christ.
And you know, like, these Bandai games, they never go down in price.
No.
They never go down.
I know. There's 2 separate fucking Dragon Ball Z fighter games that are still both fully supported and also $60. Like, what's happening here?
It's a scam.
Oh god. All right. Well, shall we rank these bad boys? Where are you putting Captain Tsubasa?
Captain Tsubasa, I am putting at the bottom. It is the worst. There was nothing that was redeeming for it about me.
That sounds about right for you. That's a shame though. Sorry you didn't enjoy it.
It is. Yeah,
I
it happens.
I'm gonna do the exact opposite thing in an episode of Extremes. I'm putting Yakuza Like a Dragon at number 1.
Wow. Take that, Desperados 3.
Well, I'll not take that. That's a very good game. You should also play that.
Get fucked, Desperados 3.
Jesus Christ, no, apologize. It's a lovely game. Lovely game by lovely people. Yeah, I know it's next year now, but this game just speaks to me on a lot of levels. One of the more informal ways I think I could describe Yakuza 7 is that I'm pretty sure I dreamed of this game as a teenager. Just like, what if we made an RPG, but it took place in modern times, like in a city, and it had like all the same like fantasy elements, but it was in a city. Like, I'm pretty sure I've had this conversation before, and that the game exists now. It's Yakuza 7, and it's incredible.
Well, I'm proud of you for manifesting this game into existence.
I do expect royalties. This was basically done by sheer force of will. All right, so some notes, I guess, about this as we're continuing into the new year, because by the time this is published, it'll be mid-January. Obviously, we're playing games from not the year 2021. I don't know. Would you say we're planning on doing 2020 games for a couple more episodes? Longer? I don't know what you have on the docket.
I feel like you're not going to let me talk about Just Dance 2021, so I really only have one or two others to talk about. Because I found out today that Grindstone came out in 2019 on Apple, and it only came out on other consoles in 2020, so that disqualified that, and how I ended up talking about Captain Tsubasa.
Oh, you missed out.
I did. I really did, by not having an iPad.
Well, you can talk about Just Dance. I just won't have any. I won't have any sympathetic questions for you. Yeah, I'm still planning on talking about Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Cyberpunk, but those games, those are both like fluid situations. They're both extremely buggy games that I am not playing 100% because they're extremely buggy games. But yeah, if I had to review them both now, it probably would be less than what I would expect that I will give it once I have a full experience, which maybe is sort of too generous to the developers, but but I also want to play a completed game, so there you go.
Yeah, I think we can do another week or two of this.
Well.
I can find something to play.
All right, well then there you have it. So going into 2021, probably got another couple episodes of 2020 games. Then we'll do our Tournament of Champions once again. Hopefully early mid-February? I don't know why how dare I put time estimates on this? I know how that game goes. All right.
We're going to be releasing a big Twitter statement on yellow background. We apologize.
As soon as people see it, they're going to be triggered.
The scope of our wrap-up episode was just more than we anticipated. Who could have known that we had talked about 18 games each?
Too real. Too fucking real.
I think that's basically it for us today then, huh?
Yeah, that's it. Take us out of here.
Okay, well, thanks for listening to our episode, those of you that are still listening, and, to hell with you, those of you that stopped listening before now. Some friends you are. You can check us out on all the relevant socials in various versions of our name. I think it's all
Game Off Podcast.
Game Off Podcast. Okay, so it's not various versions. I never remember.
Yeah, just type in your favorite website and then do /Game Off Podcast.
Yeah, we're not to be confused with the GOP, which has been getting a bit of bad press lately, and I just want to make very clear that we are not associated with them.
And
they're just piggybacking on our message boards.
I think we can safely denounce insurrection in the United States. That's not a hot button issue, right? You're
willing to go on record saying that? You know what? If you'll go on record, I can back you up on that.
I'm really not pro coup d'etat of the United States government. Like, not on my list of things I would like to see done in 2021.
So that's helped, I think, distance us from the GOP, which I don't think they've taken a very clear stance on it that I can quite piece together. But you know what? I don't want to make this a whole political thing.
Somehow you're saying so much more.
I don't want to get into a whole. I don't want to go off on a rant here, but
grow some backbones, boys.
Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm Andy Solitalker.
Yeah, I'm Brent Arcadia.
If we're still around and alive in a week or two, we'll talk to you then.
There's gonna be protests outside our houses. No, quote unquote protests. All right, bye.
Bye.